Have you ever wondered why the quietest people often feel the most powerful? They don't need to speak up, don't need to prove anything, yet everyone listens when they're present. Because behind their silence lies a strength most have never encountered. Silence is not emptiness. It is the birthplace of strength that most people never find. They are too busy filling the air with noise, stuffing their minds with thoughts that circle like hungry dogs. They cling to the comfort of constant chatter with others and with themselves. But there comes a moment when a man must confront the truth. True power does not roar. It does not parade like a wounded animal begging to be noticed. Real strength stands silent. It does not seek praise nor fear criticism. It speaks only when the words are better than silence, and it focuses on what few dare to finish. Look around. The world is distracted with astonishing ease. Desire pulls the mind in 1,000 directions. In today's world, attention is currency and almost everyone is broke. They trade their focus for cheap shots of validation. They speak when they should listen, argue when they should observe, overthink when they should act. Every wasted word, every useless thought, every hour lost is a cut against the self. Not a death by sword, but by 1,000 tiny betrayals. A man who fills his mind with things that don't matter has no space left for what does. A man who speaks to be heard rarely hears his own voice. A man who chases every flicker of desire loses the fire that could forge him whole. There's nothing complex here. The Stoics knew it. The mind is a wild animal. Feed it too many ideas at once, it weakens. Fill it with constant noise, it forgets its own heartbeat. Let it run wild and it turns on you, breeding fear, anxiety, and the illusion of control. A disciplined mind is not empty, it is clear. It thinks only of what it can control and lets go of what it cannot. It doesn't peck at old wounds. It doesn't feed the fantasy of what could have been. It stays with what is and does not tremble before what might come. Strength begins. In that quiet dot, the less you dwell on nonsense, the more space you give for discipline to grow. The less you speak when silence is better, the sharper your voice becomes when you do. The more distractions you strip away, the deeper your work cuts into the real. It sounds simple, and it is, but simple does not mean easy. To think less means to notice when the spiral begins and to pull the mind back again and again until the spiral breaks. And that is only the beginning. We saw how strength is born in silence. But silence alone isn't enough. It's what you do in that silence that shapes you. Progress doesn't come from endless to-do lists or loud declarations that fool the shallow into thinking they're accomplishing something. Real progress happens when no one is watching. It unfolds quietly in the shadows of routine, in those moments when the mind wants to run, but the man remains still and does the work anyway. Despite resistance, despite desire. Desire itself is not evil, but uncontrolled desire, that's poison. The Stoics taught, wanting is human, but being ruled by wants, that is slavery. So, think less about what you want. Focus more on what you need. Talk less about your dreams, work more in the dark, until that dream is strong enough to stand on its own. Pay more attention to the next small step than the distant trophy. Because anxiety thrives onto things, imagination and noise. The mind invents problems it can't solve. The tongue spreads those worries like wildfire. Fear multiplies in the echo of your own voice. But when the mind quiets, when the mouth closes and the body returns to the task, fear shrinks. Because fear is mostly a shadow cast by the future. A man who focuses on what's directly in front of him has no space left for ghosts. There's a reason the old philosophers valued solitude, not because they hated people, but because they knew around others. The temptation to perform is strong, to prove, to impress, to talk about plans not yet real. Alone, the mask drops. The man faces his real weaknesses with no one around to cheer for him. He learns to sit with his restless mind until it submits. A man must not fear solitude. He must fear being surrounded by so much noise that he can no longer hear the voice telling him who he really is. He must not fear silence. He must fear speaking, so much that his words lose meaning. He must not fear thinking less. He must fear thinking too much about nothing and forgetting what must be done today. Most people never break that cycle. They grow old talking about what they'll do someday. They weave endless excuses. They fill rooms with empty words. And when they die, all that remains is the echo of their own voice. But the Stoic does not live this way. He does not drown in his own thoughts. He does not waste his words convincing fools. He does not scatter his focus across distractions. He brings it back again and again to the one flame that truly matters. Focus is not natural. It is forged. It's the product of cutting away what doesn't belong. A focused man is one who bleeds quietly for what he wants. We've talked about forging focus through discipline by cutting away distractions. Now let's look at how a man maintains that strength even when the world turns its back on him. The world may mock him or forget him altogether, and that is his power. No one sees the sweat. No one sees the cold early mornings or the sleepless nights. No one notices the routines that break weaker men. They only see the result, never the work behind it. If the mind thinks too much, train it to think less by feeding it less. Cut the noise. Cut the gossip. Cut the endless scrolling, the constant curiosity about what everyone else is doing. Starve the mind of distractions until it learns to feed only on what sustains it. If the tongue speaks too much, learn to observe, because people reveal who they are when you're silent. They show their fears, their cravings, their flaws. A quiet man learns far more than a loud one ever could, because when you speak less, your words carry more weight. They hit deeper. They matter. And when the mind starts to wander, discipline brings it back. Quiet strength builds what empty talk never can. Desire and ego fade when they're no longer being fed. A stoic man acts without noise. He remains calm when the world demands chaos, few words, steady work. That is enough. There is nothing to prove, because true strength is silent, and that silence leaves behind what endures. This isn't a philosophy to admire, it's a way to live, a way to fight, a way to remain grounded in a world that constantly tries to shake. You lose. So in the end, ask yourself, did my mind help me? Did my words build anything? Did my work truly matter? If the answer is no, then start again. This is the Stoic warrior mind, a mind that is unshaken, disciplined, and quiet.